the show, and now this should fucking work. If it does not fucking work, I will strangle my computer if that's physically possible.
It doesn't seem physically possible.
Well, I could grab the monitor by
Yeah,
the...
don't you need a windpipe to strangle something?
Okay, they can hear it now. Good. Good, they can hear.
and
Yes,
and the
vaccination.
first thing they hear is threats of violence against computers.
I guess it's better than threats of pornography about computers.
Okay, I will wank off the porn.
That's not what we were saying. But I'm glad. I'm glad that now we know how a strike was spending his Saturday night.
Actually, I work after this, so no. Yeah. Also, can you turn off your
Someone
thing?
is hot miking.
Polymath.
Sorry.
But actually, here's an interesting topic. When I was in Singapore, I went to see Die Hard 5, and they had it edited so that all the yippee motherfuckers and all that stuff was just replaced by some other audio from somewhere else in the film, and it was really glaring. But the violence was all still there. So, what's your
I was just thinking exactly that. That's kind of ironic that Die Hard is like the gory, violent, gruesome bloodfest, and they censor the naughty words. Doesn't he like shoot people in the face every other scene?
Well, it's like I don't understand why they bleep out swear words. We know what you're saying. Like if you say mother bleep, I know you're saying motherfucker. Don't bullshit me. In fact, I used to think when I was younger, I used to think that bleeping was even worse because I used to think that on American TV in a lot of places you can say ass and you can say hole, but you can't say asshole. Hole gets bleeped out. So it sounds, based on censorship, that it could be ass fuck because it's just ass bleep. And I've never understood that. Why you can say ass and you can say and you could say hole, but you can't say them together.
I mean,
I
I honestly think censoring it makes it more funny. That just makes it more funny, kind of.
Mm-hmm. It works in some it works in some situations where you don't know what they're saying, but you probably wouldn't want to hear it.
Well, yeah,
They're just describing something
like when
really off the wall sexual.
yeah, like someone's just like they begin just beeping something like beep 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 beep, like they just do that for like the whole person, meaning that they're saying some weird shit.
Beep 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 with a donkey.
Yeah. Sorry about
You
it.
say and a donkey.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what are we being protected from with the words? Yeah, you can shoot a guy in the face, and that's perfectly okay. But another form of censorship, actually, you can show violence, but you can't show blood. I think is one of those distinctions in American censorship, isn't it?
Wait, were you from anti-citizen?
USA. I mean Utah.
Oh, then okay, you sound like you're a foreigner when you said that. Go prison. Go prism. I mean, I think if it's rated teen, they can have blood. You can't have guts though.
Yeah, I think like when they censor for television, if some guy's blood and guts is hanging out, they usually will censor that. But the actual killing blow that cuts him open, you can show. Or you can show people being shot and killed by the thousands, but if there's actual red goo flying around, then that's not fit for television. There's really bizarre thresholds for what's allowed and what isn't.
What if it's white goo?
That's actually a point. I was thinking like a while ago, like kid cartoons. There's this old kid cartoon for Starship Troopers that came out a long time ago, where they would just kill bugs by the thousands and thousands, but they wouldn't really have guts coming out of them. So it's okay to kill things by the truckload, but heaven forbid if you actually see their insides on the outside.
Well, I mean, it's like that show, The Annoying Orange. You know, they die every episode. It's like it's fine if you kill things, but they can't be a person. You know, like you could kill I don't know, you could kill Wile E. Coyote as many times as you want, as long as it's not a person.
I think like other cartoons, they'll kill robots a lot. I noticed this with like the X-Men cartoon, where Wolverine could always hack and slash robots, but he could never cut a person. Have you ever noticed that?
Actually, that's a weird theme. Ironically, that happened in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from back then too. Like they were
Yeah, I
like,
think
all they
yeah.
fought were robots. All they fought were robots or rock soldiers. What the hell, man?
Yeah, it's because you can get away with tearing a robot to shreds, but if it was a person, that'd be censored violence. It'd be too violent for kids. You can break things, but not people, apparently. So if it's a thing that looks like a person but actually isn't, and you smash their head off, it's fine because it was a thing, quote unquote. But if it's an actual person and blood, then it becomes too violent for our children.
Dying.
I remember, or like G.I. Joe, where people just shoot at each other all day and nobody would actually get.
Oh yeah, nobody dies. Like I remember they made a spoof of that on Robot Chicken. Like only one person died on the Cobra team, and nobody died on G.I. Joe's side. And that was like wow. He's like what's your name, Sonny? He's like Jim. You shot the guy. He's like we're gonna add him to the wall. He's like I'm okay. Yeah.
Or like an airplane would get shot by a missile and it would explode, and like you would know that the guy would die, but he'd always parachute to safety. So it's like if it's okay to have them fight each other as long as he parachutes out, then oh, he lived and it's okay. But if you didn't show him parachuting out, then a guy would have been implied to die in there, and now we have something too terrible to show kids.
I'm curious, Kitch. Blasphemy laws is a form of censorship, isn't it?
Yes.
So
Yes.
Can you tell us
It's an attempt to it's an attempt to control what you can or can't say in respect to religion. In Ireland, we do have a blasphemy law, but it's sorry.
No, go ahead.
If you say or basically blasphemy laws, if you say or do anything that can be considered offensive to somebody of faith, Christianity, Islam, for example, Judaism, you can be prosecuted, and depending on the what the hell was that?
Yeah, you guys heard that, right?
Did somebody just have an orgasm?
God damn it, Polymath! Stop watching porn.
It's not. No, it's something else. It was something else.
I'll go with my assumption it's porn, but go ahead.
But, depending on the country, it depending on the country, you could get different sentences. In Ireland, it's a fine, but in Ireland, the law is enacted so that it's really impossible to actually get prosecuted. In other countries, I think it's death in. I can't remember which Middle Eastern country. I know there's a few Middle Eastern countries where it's death or a 10-year prison term. Death if you're actually a Muslim, and prison term if you're not. For the life of me, I can't remember because it was one of the hosts of the Arab atheists actually was convicted of blasphemy and got 10 years.
I know what you're talking about. The guy who was on a was it Live Life show? Or was it
Ben Bass.
Yeah, him.
Yeah, he's on the Arab atheist. It's it's the same thing as it's the same kind of setup, but it's in Arabic.
So we can't.
Wait, so
we can't understand a lick of what they're saying.
No.
So what's an example of something you can't say? 'Cause you said you're in Ireland. What would be something that would be against these blasphemy laws? Like something bad about the Catholic Church? Give us an example of something you can't say.
Well, the thing is, you can say the way the law is. You can say whatever you want. It's impossible to prosecute because it has to be in order to prosecute. It has to be an example. Basically, blasphemy for no apparent reason.
So you can blaspheme for a reason. You just can't blaspheme for blasphemy's sake.
From the looks of it, because there hasn't been any convictions so far.
Wait, does that mean when you stub your foot, you can't say "God damn it"?
No, you can.
Or you
It's
can't.
not blasphemy.
It's just that no one wants to enact it, and it was just an act. It was just basically it was in our constitution, and it was And what happened was that they enacted it, or they brought it up to date so they couldn't, so no one could get prosecuted over it if my reading into it was correct. The problem with what a lot of people have with it is that it's not that you could get prosecuted, because no one's going to get prosecuted over this law. It's that other countries, such as Pakistan, anywhere with a blasphemy law, is using our law to justify their more harsher laws. So
And they're
we
using it
don't
like
want,
as a precedent.
yeah, as a
If
precedent.
they do it in Ireland, we can do it here.
Yeah, if Ireland can do it, then so can we. So that's why everyone's having a. That's why people don't want us to have this law. So that's why ATS Ireland are fighting against the blasphemy law, because it's being used as a precedent in the United Nations, and basically we don't want that. We don't want one of our laws to justify something that's completely off the wall crazy, like blasphemy laws.
So why did the Pakistanis need a precedent from Ireland to just enact a law that they want to do anyway? Like, if that wasn't
think it's
there,
more
what
of
would stop them from doing it anyway?
I think it's just more of a, hey, they're doing it, so we could say they're doing it, so get off our back about us doing it. They'll probably still do, but they're just using it as a get off our back.
Because they're both in the United Nations, so if the UN starts pressuring one but not the other, they can, say, why are you picking on us? That's sort of the idea.
That's it. I'm not a legal expert, so I can't say that with complete confidence. So, but as far as I know, yeah.
How
I can definitely
strange.
say that's makes perfect sense if you're a theocracy and you want to just silence free speech and criticism. That'd be probably the first place to go. But yeah, it seems a little silly to base it on another country's precedent when you're just going to do it anyway. But that is a good point, though, that if the UN starts picking on one country for it, then they can simply say, these other guys are doing it too. You should pick on them. But then it's also odd that you'd make a law that buried in the law itself is a neutering of its enforcement. So it's like a great big feel-good gesture then to make Catholics happy. Is that kind of what it sounds like to me?
No, it's just in our constitution. In order to get rid of it, we need to have a referendum. The country is broke at the moment, so I don't think to change the constitution.
And that would cost money?
Yeah, because you have to. It's basically like an election almost. It's in a way you have to have. You have to fund your campaign. You have to get volunteers out. You have to rent all these different places to bring to collect votes, stuff like that.
Do you mean you're broke but you're not in debt?
We are in debt, not as much as the United States, but we do have a big debt that we need to get rid of.
Billions or trillions?
And billions, actually. Not trillions. I doubt it's trillions. I don't think we'd spend that much. And CTAH is right. Many of our laws in Ireland were adopted from the UK because of our history with as British, as being part of the UK. Such as the abortion, such as the law on abortion, which dates back to the 1950s.
But also,
Did I say 18 or 1950s? 1850s.
Yeah, 1850s. He also says something about
Tommy Tiernan. He's an Irish comedian. I actually never heard of Tommy Tiernan, someone trying to prosecute Tommy Tiernan on blasphemy law. I'll check that out.
Ireland, he
said. I'll definitely check that out. I wouldn't be surprised if someone did try and do that. But Tommy Tiernan's hilarious.
So is the blasphemy limited to just Christianity, or is it blasphemy against any religion at all?
It seems to be against any religion at all. I remember during the debate, it was really supported by the the Islam by the Muslim churches
Really?
or Muslim mosques, not Muslim churches. Oh god, get me all my terms mixed up. But yeah, it was supported. It was I remember it was a prime time debate, and it was really supported by the Muslim churches because they said they would protect against racial attacks, which is
I don't get it though. Muslim is not a race.
I know, but I think when people see someone who is Arab, they immediately assume they're Muslim. I think that's what they mean by race. I think I'm just being generous on that on that front.
I don't get it though. If they say, "Hey, are you Muslim?" and they say yes, so is that racist?
No, but they'll attack them. They won't ask, "Are you Muslim?" They just go, "Oh, Arab guy, get him," because he's obviously Muslim and he's obviously this, and this.
Is there mobs that attack Muslims in your country?
I want not no. There wouldn't have it as bad as the UK or America. Ireland's been pretty tolerant. We've got a better history in comparison of and how in terms of racism, we got a better history of it than the United States or England or France or other countries. But it does happen though. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It does happen, but not to as big of an extent. But I remember actually just this week, funny enough, I think there was one of the charity groups that's involved in community making sure that they're fighting against racism was spray painted with racist stuff. And I just remember, then it's just like, oh, is racism getting bigger in Ireland?
But racist towards what though?
So I'm trying to remember because I was just listening to it in my car on the way home.
I mean, are they racist to blacks? Are they racist to Arabs?
Blacks, it seems, yeah.
Oh.
I'll check it out. See if there's a.
But I don't get how blasphemy laws will protect blacks.
Yeah, that's the blasphemy include race
It
law.
doesn't exactly work for racism, does it? Like you say, you want to say the N word, you can say it, you won't get arrested for it. It's just a word. But I mean, if you say, "Oh, you're a African mystic, you crazy voodoo loving thingamawatchin,"
Yeah. It's and I said it was a justification. I never said it was a good one.
So I mean, you can switch it around if a bunch of Christians start saying atheists have no morals and they're a bunch of horrible people. Can you kind of flip flop? Yeah, the blasphemy, can that go both ways?
Well, really it should, but at the same time, no one's gonna. It's impossible to prosecute.
Yeah.
As far as I know, it'd be very specific. But I'm trying to think. Sorry, I've just got distracted. It should, but I don't. Well, really, it should be if you really want to be fair. But I don't think anyone's going to care about atheist feelings or, get over it. That kind of way.
I'm hurt.
I'm just being called to be back in a sec.
So, Polymath, you there?
Yeah?
Still watching porn?
What?
What's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I don't understand how... What would be the punishment, for example?
I'm guessing maybe a few days in jail.
That's just...
Depends where you are. Like in Ireland, there's pretty much no punishment at all. He said in Pakistan, you can potentially be put to death. So that's pretty wide range of punishments there.
And it's for any deity? Like, what about the flying spaghetti monster, for example?
You offend me, sir.
Well, depends where you are, I guess. If you get a bunch of Pastafarians in Pakistan, maybe you could try people on blasphemy.
They got Sharia law, don't they?
Although usually the dominant religion is the one that enforces everything. So unless you can get Pastafarians to account for more than 60 to 70, 80% of the population, then it's going to be a little difficult to...
You also need to
do
find
it.
non-apathetic Pastafarians, which, in my experience, is quite hard.
Have you met I actually have never met a Pastafari.
Wait, I just want to
That's
get
because they're
straight.
not a real thing.
No, they are.
Strife, do they actually believe it?
Who?
No, of course not.
Okay.
I know. No, I know it's all bullshit. But I'm saying, would you if you walked up to somebody saying, "What are you?" and they say Pastafarian, I never had that ever happen to me.
Well, that's because it's not a real religion, Strife.
Actually, there's a video on YouTube where I think it was some Pastafarians in Oregon tried to get kind of an official local community recognition, and this girl gave this 5-minute speech about what it means to be a Pastafarian and all their beliefs, and it's really hard to tell if they're being sarcastic or not, because she makes the point that people say our religion is a fake religion that was made up as a sarcastic backlash against other faiths, and say, no, we take this seriously, definitely. But as she says it, you can tell that if you know the history of it, like, she's obviously not really being serious about it, and it was kind of this big political ploy to...
Yeah.
I always wanted to make a video of me being a Pastafarian, and I would need a friend, but I'd walk around with a 30 rack of beer on Sunday and go bang on someone's door and go, "Oh, do you have time to talk about the Lord?" "Of course you don't. It's Sunday," and then just give them the beer and walk away.
Did you know?
That's great.
Did you know a guy in Australia, Austrian man wins the right
Driver's
to wear,
license.
Austrian to wear a pasta trainer and license photo?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what you see a lot, is they sort of pretend like it's serious just for the sake of making the legal point.
Yeah, but
The funniest thing, I mean, there was a guy who did a bunch of really good videos where he was a Pastafarian's street preacher, but he's not on YouTube anymore. Captain Mo Awesome, if you remember him. And he did some awesome videos. He also did one of my favorite videos, which was the blasphemy sandwich. Have you ever seen that? That was a great video because the blasphemy sandwich was basically all the things that you could have like that offend every religion. So it had pork, it had beef, it had bacon.
New versions of Playboy.
No, it had it had eggs, it had dairy on it, had cheese on it. It also but he was like, wait, I haven't offended Christianity, and so he took his mustard on the hard roll that it was on and wrote "fuck Jesus." And it said "fucking Jesus," illegal in Christianity.
Wait, I
And
had a
then he
question.
ate it.
Should I invite Kermit the Frog on?
What?
Froggy?
No, Johan.
Oh God. The mind is not reducible to non-mind.
Yeah.
Dualism is impossible. Dualism. See, we are in the mind of God. See, dualism is impossible. Digital physics.
Well, does he have anything constructive to say on censorship?
Well, let me see. Well, give me 5 minutes, but yeah. But also I got a question. What about politically correct laws? And also the whole thing with let's go to intelligent design, saying they're being censored by the scientific community because the scientific community censors the little guy, I think it was, or something, right?
Well, I mean, they have to demonstrate that their claims are true. Otherwise, no one can take them seriously.
There's censorship, and then there's not passing the peer review process.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tell them to get some evidence. Tell them to come back when they have evidence.
There's standards you have to meet in order to get a paper published, and if you just spew out a bunch of
That's why they make
made
their
up
own
stuff,
papers, man.
yeah,
You know,
they make their own journals because of this now.
yeah. Answers in Genesis has its own journal. Did you know that?
Yes.
It's not a journal though. Like, no one takes it seriously. It
I know.
really it pisses me off that people, you see this oftentimes on sort of the pseudoscience side of things, is that they refuse to publish by anyone else's standards. And I had debated something with someone over a model in neuroscience, and I said, listen, these people are publishing in shit journals, and their opponents who are publishing refutations are all in prominent journals. You know, this is a little silly.
Okay.
That's a question. What's a prominent journal or versus a shit journal? How do you?
Well, one of the journals was the Journal of Cosmology, which isn't a peer-reviewed journal.
Well, so you can always tell a good journal from a crap journal is by their impact factor.
Yes.
How many times they're cited versus the amount of the papers they publish.
Well, that's the thing, is most people think that all papers are created equally, but they're not. There are reviews, there are letters, there are actual research papers, and each journal is different. For example, you know, if I publish in the journal Cell for my field, that's a really fucking big deal, because that's pretty much the number 3 journal you can publish to for cellular biology, of course, behind Nature and Science.
Yeah.
Because for any field, that's the widest circulating journal. Those two are the 2 widest circulating journals in the world. But that's the issue. I mean, it's always come down to, for me, down to there's so much of a disconnect between people who aren't in science and people who are. And it's very difficult to bridge that gap. And I think that scientists need to, and myself included at very certain points, is to reach out.
That is a good question, though. Is like, if I just handed you 2 journals with low impact factors, how would you tell a good one from a bad one? And I think what you said, being peer reviewed is usually a great sign of good versus bad. If they don't even peer review, that's obviously a big red flag. Another
Citations would be another one.
Yeah, who cites them? You know, do other people take this seriously? But that in and of itself isn't quite a good measure. It's a good sign, but I mean, some journals are just so specific in their focus that they only have their own little community that cares about what they work on.
Especially if they mostly just quote off John Morse.
Well, the thing is a lot of citation factors. There was someone on YouTube who was trying to present something. It's like, this has been cited 100 times. I went, okay, I work at a university. I can just hit the citation generator. And I looked at it. All of the citations none of them were primary research works. They were all either other sort of speculative type of papers, or they were just books. You know, none of them were actually that I could tell were actually research work.
Sounds like creationist sources.
Yeah, that's a good way to think of it, is who cites your work. Is it just other people within your narrow little field citing you? Then you're only being acknowledged by people who already agree with you in a sense.
Well, I think the problem there is, if you have like a narrow field that has, it's a field of study, but it's only, a small number of people study that area. So that's kind of another problem too.
But yeah, you can kind of take it on a case by case in that. This is just like one flag out of
In
many.
general, right.
Another really good red flag that I've noticed in some of these journals is they have mission statements. And if their mission statement is, we believe the Bible is true unquestionably.
Well, mission statements, that totally tells you that they're not trying to...
If their mission statement
that's
is trying to
red flag.
prove something, if their mission statement is that they're going to try to prove, if their mission statement is they're going to prove a point instead of we're going to investigate, like
argue a point.
This paper is to prove the Bible is true, this paper is to prove that evolution is false, or we're going to investigate X, Y, and Z, or investigate the field of cellular biology, and
you try to make arguments. You don't
Yeah, like what you said is a good sign. Is a reputable journal that says we are interested in cutting edge discoveries in the field of X, whereas the unreputable, the more fraudulent ones would say we are interested in proving the veracity of the Bible, or defending the Bible. They'll have some statement where they admit their preconceived conclusion that they're defending. That's a huge flag right there.
Genesis has.
Yeah,
Genesis has.
think places like the Discovery Institute or a lot of these lesser creationist-style journals will definitely have similar mission statements. I know like Mormon apologetic places will have similar statements. We're here to defend the Book of Mormon or investigate the truth of the Book of Mormon type stuff.
You
So,
don't. You never do that if you're like.
yeah.
It's presupposing what you're trying to prove. Which, I mean, everyone kind of does that to some extent, but like you're saying that out loud.
Well, another thing is if you look at, for example, the Journal of Cosmology that I looked at earlier. When you look at the about statement on their site, it says that all articles submitted should have no jargon.
What?
Yeah. I think I've seen that phrase before in other places too.
It's just not a scientific article, and
Uh-huh.
there are a lot of scientists out there, sadly enough, who are so lawyerish about getting their work out that they don't care that they're publishing in a journal that it isn't a journal. They're not going about it in a respectful way, and the reason is because there's the question of public impact. How much does public impact really matter in science?
And that would be then the people who get their names out and become the famous scientists. The lawyer ones. It's pretty funny.
But it doesn't make you a good scientist. I mean...
Right, I know, it doesn't, but yeah. Usually, because a lot of the times, because this is in my little, in the realm of theoretical physics where it's like, usually you see them all reaching the same conclusion anyway, so but yeah, I mean, there are undoubtedly lawyerist type things going on where I've heard things like someone writes a popular book and then I've heard behind the scenes that so-and-so, like one famous scientist was mad at another famous scientist in private for doing this, and like, you should not have put this popular book out there and said all this. And
no, that's the general view of scientists. It's not one scientist. Most scientists view popular science books as a show that, you look at...
right.
The closest to it is, the closest in terms of books that people are okay with are works that are actually just publicizing already well-known findings.
Right.
Not debating findings. So scientists actually hate people who are, and I can say this, are people who are trying to push their findings in a non-academic sense.
Gotcha. That's what I had heard about some, I forget who it was two physicists, and they were having an argument on something. It was a popular physics book, and almost like, you're pushing this in a lawyer, you shouldn't publish this the way, and put this stuff in along with the stuff that we already know and so forth. And
So on the issue of censorship, so I just want to make one little point, is in a sense, I like the idea of how creationists will complain that they're censored from real science. I don't think, real science doesn't censor specifically, but they do filter. How would you maybe draw that distinction?
Well, why is peer review a censoring process?
Well,
because they'll reject you if you don't meet certain requirements.
But I mean, my group tried to publish a paper in Science, and we made it to the final review stage, and unfortunately, we didn't get it. But were they censoring us?
I would say that it's not really censoring because they have a right to decide what they can and cannot put in their journal. They have the right. I would really define censorship as more of a stopping you from even trying to get your paper published anywhere. You can apply and try, but they don't have to take you up on it. Just like if someone sent an article to one of our blogs to want us to publish it. If we don't publish it, we're not censoring them. We're just not not interested in putting it on our journal, because that represents us. That says this is our opinion as well. This is our opinion of our journal. It's not our opinion. It's not. So it's not a good fit for our journal.
Yeah, that's a good point. Is you're not actively silencing people. You're just saying, there's standards you must meet to publish in our forum, and you didn't meet it. Sorry. Yeah. Filtering versus censoring, I think.
Usually for a paper, you'd need battery different experiments, and one thing that's not really talked about is even just if you could have the best results in the world and you can make really great conclusions, but if your paper isn't written properly, then that too can get you rejected.
Yeah. Just terrible grammar.
Terrible grammar.
Bad
Even if you
spelling.
don't write your paper well, grammar is great, but it's just not really. You can't just.
Not concise and well.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's not. I don't think people, necessarily understand what publishing is as a process. And this is the issue, is people say, oh, I got published. Well, that actually doesn't mean anything, because if you look far enough, you can get published.
Just look on Archive.
If you look at ArtSiv, and that's the problem with ArtSiv. It's not, it's a good way to make something publicly available, but it's not a good way to actually publish a paper, because it's not peer reviewed. It's not vetted. The reason that peer review rejects papers is not because of grammatical errors. Do you think that people with PhDs are that stupid that they don't have spell check? I mean, let's get real here. The reason is because they're not that impressed by the findings, or they're skeptical.
Hey guys, I gotta run. I gotta get to work early. So I'll see you guys later.
Okay.
Well, in terms of the grammar things, a lot of people who publish in journals, some don't have English as their first language. I know for ours we have a couple of Italians, and I have to go through their papers, and sometimes you find just bizarre mistakes. Even sometimes in my own, even sometimes I get we do a journal club, and sometimes I read some papers, and they're just. That's an awful mistake you made there. And I even going through my own, I noticed that as well. It's usually because you're just, writing isn't your first thing. You're more concerned on your experiments, and then you're doing different things that you could just get distracted. And some coffee-fueled morning, you could just let a mistake go by. That happens as well. Even with maths, I know, I know when my supervisor is a reviewer. I can't remember which journal, but he's told me some stories of some mistakes he's getting. So mistakes do happen, even for PhD scientists.
Actually, it's funny you bring up grammar, because I personally reviewed a paper about 6 months ago where my primary complaint was that they didn't write it very well. They had perfectly good findings and data, but their grammatical structure and layout was just sloppy. And so that was my big complaint, was don't publish this until they fix these issues. But that's actually something I think worth pointing out, is usually you don't reject papers on these grounds. You're given the chance to fix them. So that's why you have this revision process to meet standards. But they don't just say, I disagree with you, therefore you shouldn't be published.
Oh, it's about the findings completely.
Yeah.
And that's what most people don't understand. You get, and this is common on YouTube, way too common, is you get abstract scientists. These are people who think that by reading an abstract, you understand the paper.
Oh, I know them. I know who you're talking about.
Not even just Nephilim Free, everyone. There are so many of them. And the issue is that people don't ever admit that these things are extremely technical. If anyone's ever presented a paper in a journal club, and I suggest you do it because if you're pursuing science, because that actually tells you what it's like to be a scientist, having to present someone else's work and understand the logic of their experiments and be able to answer questions that people are bringing up. But, people have no clue. I got to go for a second, guys. I'll be back in a bit.
Yeah, and even in journal clubs, you can get your idea. You can present you can learn what a good paper is from a bad paper. Like, you can get something that you think is good, and then when you get questioned on it, oh, what about this, what about this, what about that, you realize it's not really a good paper because they didn't cover their bases. They didn't think about certain aspects, or they didn't present results that should have been presented, or didn't do experiments, or they didn't do them in a proper way. Maybe the cell line wasn't correct, or the assay wasn't particularly relevant, or the assay wasn't not relevant, wasn't suitable for what was going on. You can often find that happens.
was in a research group where that's kind of something that we do once a week is read papers or have someone present a paper and just talk about, did they like the findings, how much of it did you understand, what would you have done differently. Like that was part of my qualifying exam for my PhD is you have to read 5 papers and present them to your committee. And, they'll ask you questions about the content of it, how well did you understand it, what would you do differently, how does this relate to your research, what were their methods. So yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into this stuff, and a very strong standard you have to meet. So usually when creationists complain that they're being censored, it's usually just complaining that they're being rejected for not meeting the standard. Like you have to follow the rules or you're not doing science. And if you don't follow the rules, then you're not going to get published.
Like,
At least not the scientific ones.
I remember a paper. Somebody brought it to me once, twice. The paper. The guy said that, oh well, this will prove to you that the speed of light is not constant. The funny thing is, it said the speed of nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. It said it right in the paper. And the paper was was 5 sentences. And there was another one that was like maybe 3 paragraphs. But at the end it says, in conclusion, the speed of light is nothing go faster than the speed of light was said in the first sentence. It was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, you get a lot of that too. People read the title or the abstract, like we're saying, and then they suddenly think they understand the whole paper, and then
they get into the information, and then they say, oh, but like it's all well and good. You can understand it, but you can still disagree with a paper.
It's all about interpretation of the paper, man.
Yeah. For example, I know there was a paper published. I know for myself that there's a paper published, and I know I had disagreements with it because of it wasn't really. It was really technical because they used sodium acetate, which is not something like it was published in the Royal Society of Chemistry, and I had huge problems with it because they used a biofilm to produce silver nanoparticles, but they never in the paper did any kind of electron microscopy, which you need to do to observe the size of the nanoparticles, and they never characterized the biofilm. So how do you know you even have a biofilm? How do you know what's in the biofilm? Like something you really want to use.
You can't leave things out. You can't be sloppy.
Yeah.
If you be sloppy, then pretty much they'll say...
And this paper made it to the Royal Society of Chemistry, so I was amazed at that. I think it was a letter though, so I'm not too certain. I couldn't find the actual. I couldn't find anything more, so I'm not too sure if this is only just a letter or if it was the actual research article. They did go into detail about their method, but I couldn't find any other thing. So it was in the Royal Society of Chemistry, so I'm a bit surprised that they let that in without asking for biofilm characterization. But maybe I'm going a little bit too technical.
That is kind of a good point, because scientists aren't perfect either. And it's not that hard to get a paper published as long as you're trying in good faith to follow the rules. You can get your data out there. So you got to wonder why...
The scientists are not censoring you. It's just that either, well, not to be frank, but either you're just lazy, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's...
Lazy, or you're not that bright, I guess.
Yeah, you just got to follow the rules. And if you don't follow the rules, then it won't be published. And yeah, you get rejected. Yeah, so in conclusion, creationists are silly.
Yeah,
Well,
look at
what about Ian Jupi? What do you think of
Oh, where do I know that name from? Where have I heard that?
He's Wazoo.
He's the kind of
Wazulu, that guy. Actually, does anybody know a
the one.
creationist who's tried to be published?
Behe?
Michael Behe's not a... here's the thing is that...
Not him, Dumsky.
Dembski?
Dembski?
Yeah, Demsky.
Yeah, Eugenie Scott, I think, rejected the paper, wasn't it?
I think so.
I can't remember who. I remember I saw a debate between himself and Eugenie Scott, and he accused her of rejecting the paper. He said, you rejected the paper, so I'm not sure if it was Eugenie Scott or if it's wherever Eugenie Scott was working at the time.
Because usually peer review is anonymous. You have no idea who's looking at your paper.
Sometimes you can have an open peer review system. That means both the reviewers and the authors know who's who. And sometimes I think it's preferable not to have it anonymous, even though that runs the risk of people just
being angry or retaliating.
Yeah.
And
People
Yeah.
have to kill you.
But no, I've never been involved in a publication process where anyone actually knows who the reviewer is.
I mean, they could take a guess, can't they? I mean, can't they figure out by maybe your style?
If you've written enough papers and your field is narrow enough, and they probably can guess it's pretty much you.
Still kind of a guess though, because you can suggest who reviews your paper, but the editor doesn't actually have to have that person.
It should remain anonymous. Let the data, speak for itself.
It's easier to know who wrote the paper than it is to know who's written the paper.
Yeah. The reviewer will know who you are, but you won't know who your reviewer is usually.
Just to note to anyone who's watching, this after show will be broadcast by a guy named Key Adams. I'm going to invite him to the call right now because he needs to have a call for you guys to be in it. Just getting that out there.
But I mean, it's always for me. I think that the internet has meant that creationism is really on its last legs because no one takes it seriously.
Well, look at
except creationists.
Yeah.
Well, look at Eric Hovind, for example. I mean, he doesn't do creation science anymore. He's switched to this new sort of apologetics.
He still does it.
Well, not as much. He doesn't do it as much as he used to.
No, not at all.
Well, yeah, like I remember when he used to do Creation Minute. The Grand Canyon, that just a canyon at this level. Does that mean the water went uphill? Like.
Have you seen King Crocoduck's videos refuting him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually thinking about getting on one of the future episodes. He was looking forward to being on. I could not get in contact.
But now he does this other sort of apologetics, which is really confusing.
Presuppositionalism?
Yeah.
It's just stupid. I know that's really a mean thing, but it really is because...
Pretty much presuppositionalism is summed up in this word. These few words. I'm right, you're not. That's it. That's pretty much all it is.
I think it's the same style as
Side 10 burden bake.
Bruggen cake,
Burden cake, whatever.
Sorry. Yeah, he basically his style is basically just his style is basically best summarized as refusal to debate.
It's just pretty much saying, I'm right, you're wrong. Let's not discuss about it.
It's like
it's not even just that.
I won't discuss.
Presuppositionalists even go so far to say is not only am I right, but you secretly agree with me anyway. You just need to come to terms with that. Like Sai says that openly in a lot of his lectures is, who believes in God? Everyone does.
Which is kind of
so, yeah, it's like, why are you even argue with me? You already know you believe because the Bible says you do. Therefore, you must.
And at which point, everyone should just walk out of the room laughing their ass off.
Yeah. But except they don't, which is kind of a sad problem. So, like what I was going to take issue with somebody said earlier is, nobody takes this stuff seriously. That's not exactly true. Lots of people take this stuff seriously, and there's millions upon millions of them taking this seriously. The only people who don't take this seriously are the legitimate science people. But
or the moderate Christians are the ones who give a crap.
Yeah, there's a lot of in-betweens too. So in a sense, it's the reputable people who are trying to do real science don't take it seriously, but the rest of the world who wants to vote and make laws on the rest of us do take it seriously, which means, in a sense, we still have to take it seriously because of that. Just because of the fact that they still exist and they're still electing people to offices who want to push an agenda on the rest of us.
Oh wow, we got a surge of people.
Sorry?
We got Mus
Muskoka, man.
yeah, Mustoko. Yeah, yeah. I cannot. I'm sleepy as fuck today. I don't know why, but yeah. Adams, you there? It's not. But yeah, so going with the topic of censorship, would you say um that like how creationists say, well, evolution is religion too. They're trying to censor. I mean, they're trying to. Is that? I'm not really sure. Is that even an argument? Non-starter.
It's
It's
projection.
completely
I think.
wrong.
Well, where they say, well, I know creation is. I mean, intelligent design is religion, but evolution's one too. Like they try to make that evolution their same thing.
Arden Raw has an entire video on this exact subject, actually.
The fifth
Pretty well
foundation
done.
falsehood of creation.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, you remember the number? That's
I've watched all of them.
specific.
I've watched all of them.
Yeah, I have too, but
I really like his videos. Yeah.
I am a shameless fanboy.
Yeah.
of Aaron Raw.
Hmm
It's probably a good thing he's not here. I'd be too busy butt snorkeling and rather than engaging the discussion more.
Like, oh my god, I'm talking to Aaron Raw.
Exactly.
Oh my god.
I mean, it's very funny. I mean, the thing that I always say to rebut any conspiracy is that if someone was able to make a discovery about creationism, they would get so much funding. It's so hard to get funding.
Hero,
Like,
a science hero. You get a Nobel Prize. You just proved God. No, here's your Nobel Prize and $1 million.
I mean, it's just so obvious from the outset that there's not a conspiracy because you would get so much money. That's the kind of stuff that
Or
you
you get
get,
killed.
tons of research grants.
Or you get killed.
Killed.
Yeah, like Alex Jones.
He thinks you'll get killed if you prove God's existence.
No. I mean, as in, like, if this conspiracy, like, if there was a conspiracy in science against creationism and shit, like Alex Jones thinks there's a conspiracy of the government, why isn't he dead? Why isn't he 6 feet under? If this is so, secret and stuff.
Because
Well,
Stephen
here's the thing.
Hawking has his goon squad ready to squash.
Yeah.
all
Well, the thing
religious
is
nonsense.
the general objection that I have to any conspiracy theory is this, is that the government couldn't keep a blowjob secret. You really think that a massive conspiracy is possible?
They can keep 2 blowjobs secret.
Because the response will be, they did that deliberately to lower your guard, to lull you into that false sense
Yeah,
of...
they made up the blowjob thing, and they said that they didn't have one. They just,
Wait, what blowjob?
the one
Lewinsky.
that Al Gore got. No, I mean the one that Clinton
Clinton.
Bill
got.
Clinton.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Al Gore, by the way, looks like he is in dire need of a blowjob. I just call it, just stop me. I'm just...
And you
I guess
got
that's-
Neo involved, you monster.
I think you have a good question of, creationism is out there. You can't just shut them up. Like, they have just as much a right to speak their minds as we do. So how do you deal with all these bad ideas? Because you're not allowed to just silence them. So what's the alternative then?
Well, that's the thing, though. I mean, they have their right to say it, but they don't have their right to. I forget who said this. They have the right to speak it, but they don't have the right to truth, or the right to facts.
Or the right to be taken seriously?
Facts.
What was it?
They're not entitled to their own facts.
Yeah, that's it. That's I think. I forget. Was that from Aaron Raw?
No, that's somebody else.
Thunderfoot?
I don't know.
Whatever. But yeah, but along those lines, they are allowed to say what they're saying. But I would say if it gets to the point where it causes harm, like Dover, where the school had to pay money, you're causing harm, aren't you?
What happened in Dover?
The school
Pennsylvania?
got sued by the families, so they had to pay them like millions of dollars. But so pretty much I think it was the lawyers they had.
Oh, they had to pay
$1,000,
legal
I think it was,
fees.
but they still had to pay the money.
That's right. So yeah, that's actually a good point. Is they're free to say what they want, but when
it
they
causes harm.
commit fraud or they start pushing laws into local schools and forcing people to pay money to
I
fight
honestly don't get this
battle.
though. Why did the school get sued, and why didn't the members of the board get sued? That's what I don't get.
Because
Whole
the
thing.
members of the board, the school board got sued.
They did. I thought it was a school.
It was
Baseball.
Brown versus Board of Education, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
No,
believe-
that's civil rights. Is that what we're talking, or are we doing?
No, we're talking about the Dover trial.
Yeah, it's the Dover Board of Education.
Kitzmiller versus Dover.
Oh, Kitzmiller versus
Yeah,
Dover.
That was it. Yeah.
Was way off.
Yeah, that one of them is so that black people can go to school.
Sorry.
Yeah, this is funny.
With
we were
us.
talking about Ebonics before the show, and you brought up a case with civil rights.
So Kitzmiller versus. So is that Kitzmiller was the plaintiff and Dover was the school board or the town of
district.
Dover, the district?
Well, it's Dover, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Dover
Sued
Area School District. They sued the district itself.
Yeah, so they did sue.
Yeah.
They didn't sue just the board. They sued the district. That means the administration. They sued everybody.
I wonder
Yeah,
how.
but that
There's
is,
a
they
subtlety.
did also sue. They did also sue the board of directors.
Well, yes, they deserved that, but I would say, if I remember correctly, didn't two board members got up and quit because they pretty much were the people going against the majority?
I believe so. There was some resignations and protests because of it.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. So I mean, like that is causing harm to heck, even our children. It's causing harm to our children, in a sense, because they're gonna be using cardboard boxes for desks or something like that, in a sense, if they get sued more, I guess.
I don't know. Did the school board have to pay the legal fees, or I believe it was?
No, I know the legal fees they didn't have to pay, but they had to pay the fee, I think, or something.
Your lawsuit itself was over just removing the intelligent design. This is my understanding. I could be totally wrong, but my understanding is you sue to get them to remove intelligent design, but then a bunch of lawyers have it out in court, and then the losers had to pay all the legal fees over the battle as well.
Yeah.
That's what happened. So, but in a sense, that is a way of holding people accountable for what they say and do as far as pushing creationism and intelligent design is when they start trying to put it in schools and then you get this big lawsuit over it.
Oh, wait, I got the statement. Here, I'll read it. On
Okay.
February 21st, 2006, the newly elected Dover School Board voted unanimously with one absentee to pay $1 million.
Abstention.
Yeah. To pay. Wow, that's an oddly specific number. $1,011 in legal fees, and damages due to the parents and the lawyers as a result of the verdict in the case. A large sum of money for the small district. The previous school board was offered the opportunity to. I can't read. Its policy and avoid paying legal fees immediately after the lawsuit was filed in 2004, but it was declined. The parents' attorneys, that guy, the court showed that they were entitled to more than $2 million, but they accepted less than half of the amount in recognition of the small size of the school district. So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's all that they have been saying. They haven't said anything about.
Okay.
I don't get it though. So that means they really do have to pay.
So the district itself, that's like taxpayer
Yeah.
dollars, had to pay the damages then, didn't it?
Yep.
Oh, here's the articles that you're talking about that was published by Creationists. University of Montana Law Review published 3 articles addressing the topic by Casey Lumpkin,
Or Luskin?
G. West, David K. D. Wolf. They were all officers of the intelligence on it. Yeah, they pretty much argued for it. We all
That's
know
funny because
Lumpkin
the
is.
Discovery Institute didn't actually testify in defense of this intelligent design trial.
Wasn't he there though?
Behe was there, yeah.
Isn't he a member of that?
Is he a member of the Discovery Institute?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He absolutely is.
Yes. Dembski was supposed. I think, if I remember correctly, Dembski said before the trial, he said, I bet a bottle of brandy or something that intelligent design will be pushed through the court, and he pretty much ate his shoe, I think.
That's one of the major uh, fiascos of this, is that the Discovery Institute kind of backed down on this, and that maybe did Behe defend on his own? Like, this is something Aaron Roth mentions a lot in his videos, is the Discovery Institute wouldn't actually back its own position in this trial in some way. Like, you know the specifics?
Doesn't that show something?
Yeah, like they wouldn't. I think it's because like someone like Dembski was initially part of the witnesses for the defense, but then he backed out and wouldn't testify in court.
I would ask Dembski, what were you scared of?
I don't know specifically, but there was some issue with that where the Discovery Institute did not really officially defend this in the trial.
They did. He got his ass
Did they?
with the books. If I remember correctly. Like the I forget. Like it was papers of um um.
Strife.
Sorry, my mind's
What are you trying to talk about?
The whole thing in
Michael
the court
Behe.
case where this one of the lawyers brought a ton of books to Dembski's lap, pretty much.
Well, yeah, that was about the evolution of the immune
Yeah,
system.
that's it. Yeah.
I think Eric Rothschild was the lawyer, and he just basically stacked all these things against it, and they were like,
That was the
like,
Magellan.
and no, it wasn't. It was the evolution of the mammalian vertebrate immune system.
Oh, okay.
It was like a stack of books 3 feet high. They just dumped in front of him,
And
he
and
just
like you can
did that.
see in the documentary, it's amazing. You can see in the documentary, like, the people from the Thomas More Law Center, who were the people who were the opponents, the defendants' lawyers. They were like, "Oh, this was just a cheap theatrical trick," and then you see the judge go, "Oh, his textbook," and it's like, I was like, "Yeah," it was so funny to see how they just brushed it off.
Well, I mean, pretty much that shows that he has a lot of reading to do.
Yeah.
The other point is just that abject refusal to admit error about things or recognize when you're wrong about something, even when there's a stack of books in front of you that you just a minute ago said don't exist, and he still like wouldn't really acknowledge his own mistake.
Well, yeah, I mean, either he's stubborn or stupid.
Both.
Both.
Yeah, or a mixture of both. I mean, he's not stupid. I mean,
Who?
he's not stupid. He's, like, in my opinion, he's one of the smartest of the intelligent design advocates, I would say. Like, he's smarter than Dembski. He's smarter, because he accepts evolution to a degree, so he's not that stupid.
Who?
But he's,
Michael Behe?
yeah.
Well, Behe's not a you have to understand, Dembski's not stupid. He has a PhD in mathematics from the University of Chicago.
I know, but just his character just strikes me as just
He's
stupid.
just dishonest.
Yeah, he's dishonest.
I hate people throwing around, "Oh, he's stupid." There are people like Nephilim Free who are legitimately stupid, and like I don't think I'm shocking anyone by saying that.
Oh my god.
But there are people like Behe who are legitimate scientists who are just irrational.
Isn't
And-
Behe a mathematician?
No, that's
He's
Dembski.
Dembski's the
No,
mathematician.
isn't Dembski the evolutionary biologist? And stuff?
No,
No.
God damn it, Strife.
He's a biochemist, isn't he?
He is a
Behe's
biochemist.
the biochemist.
Yeah.
Dembski is the mathematician.
Yeah, so I was right. Dembski wasn't.
No, you were opposite. You
got
said
it backwards.
opposite.
Did I say opposite?
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Wow, my mind must be fucked up.
It's alright.
What were you doing before this? Like,
Sleeping. Yeah, I just don't know. I'm sorry. This. Yeah.
I mean, I think that in general, the people who tend to accept creationism, they tend to be ignorant rather than stupid.
Well, on that note, could
They
we
just
go
they don't have access to the correct information.
Well, on that note, could we possibly go to final statements, because we got 10 minutes left, and I'll transfer it to Key Adams to broadcast it because I can get ready for it. And sorry about the shitty performance for today. Because one, I feel like I'd be drunk if I was, and two, because I don't have my mouse and I got to make up with my mom somehow.
Strife, you just have to say the words. All you have to do is just apologize and ask her what you can do in the future in order to not have this happen again.
I called her a creationist. Does that help?
You're a fucking idiot.
You done goofed.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I goofed. Yeah, so, Polymath, you want to go first?
Um, Creationism is stupid, and Kent Hovind needs help. I mean, I don't know what to say.
Okay, Anti-Citizen X?
I would just simply say, freedom to express yourself does not include the freedom to lie to people. That you can be held liable fiscally and legally
Oh
when
yeah, I have
you
something else to
say false things. Okay, go ahead.
Um, Free speech should be allowed because that's how you get closer to truth, by allowing an open market of ideas. So,
Okay, Kitch?
Topic of censorship is much more broad and complicated than simply the black and white. It's brown, it's grey, it's a lot grey area. There are cases, it depends on the case. It depends on the case. If it's what we've seen FedFX do, where he censors videos, DMCA's them, that's obviously wrong. But when it comes to when it comes to making factual claims and about people like libel, and it's a little bit more grey.
Sam?
Well, in line with my now tradition of closing out my remarks with a rap lyric, I will quote Mr. Snoop Dogg and say, rolling down the street, smoking Indo, sipping on gin and juice, laid back, with my mind on my money and my money on my mind.
And how is that relevant? I liked how the last time you did it, it actually was relevant to an extent.
Which one? Which one?
bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was...
Or what about if you're having girl problems, I feel bad for you, son. I've got 99 problems, but a bitch ain't one.
Yeah.
JC.
Yeah, that was kind of relevant too.
Well, here, I'll. Do you want a better one? Is that
Something more relevant.
okay? Give me a second. I just have to make sure.
Unless you want to rap Mark Twain.
No. Well, actually, there is a rap song that quotes Mark Twain. If you would like me to.
Yeah, wait, there is?
But yeah, but it's not very relevant. It quotes the Mark Twain quote. It's not the size of the fight in the dog. It's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog.
Bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks.
How about this from NWA? I'm expressing with my full capabilities, and now I'm living in correctional facilities because some don't agree with how I do this. I get straight meditate like a Buddhist.
Okay, so just to note, Key Adams will be broadcasting the after show, so be careful on him. He's fragile, and he's a virgin at broadcasting, so don't kill him, I guess. So we'll be back in
I'm
10
always
minutes.
gentle with virgins.
Yeah, be gentle with broadcasting virgins. There will be fuck-ups. I can predict this. Yeah, so I'll sign out and then I'll upload this video to YouTube and shit. So and tune in tomorrow for the topic of objective morality.
Oh, baby.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, at least it's not going to be the idealism versus realism. That one I want to bash my head against the wall. So yeah, tune in next time. Signing out.